Well, hello out there. It's early in the morning after the snowstorm, and we know that after every winter storm, I go over what went wrong, lessons learned, things that could have been done better. So, gonna do that right now. I apologize for any background noise there, clearing the snow outside. So, here we go. So this was my initial prediction, right? I brought the 6 to 12 down and I had it further west. And I do believe that northern areas, north central New York, up by the Great Lakes, and east of the Finger Lakes, I do believe they got on the probably lower range, middle range of the 6 to 12. But what happened was, I think in this yellow region here, sleet mixed in. Well, actually, I know sleet mixed in because I'm right here on Long Island, and there was sleet falling when I was outside recording the storm. So the areas in northeastern New Jersey, going back down towards central New Jersey, and western Long Island got less snow because of the sleet mixing in with the snow. And then areas further south and west were supposed to get snow, sleet, and freezing rain, so I leave them alone. But this is where the forecast kind of went awry. And there's reasons for that. So, the axis of heavy snow was further north and east than anticipated, and there's a few reasons for this. And I already explained who did not get as much snow as I thought they did. The reason is that sleet mixed in across these areas, which wasn't anticipated. We were not expecting sleet that far north. At least I wasn't. So the first thing I'm gonna show, which is right here on the slide, is that when you get sleet, you have to have what's called a warm layer, and that is an area of temperatures aloft or above the surface that is above zero. So what you see here, this is the zero line that I'm drawing out with my mouse, and look at that. The red and green line are temperature and dew point respectively, and they're, by the way, they're together, which means the atmosphere is saturated and producing precipitation, and they are crossing the zero line aloft. So that means here with my mouse is a shallow warm layer, and I say shallow because it's at, a pressure level of maybe 750 millibars or so. If the cold layer was down at the surface, then rain would fall, and then it would freeze on contact with the surface. That's if the thermodynamic layer is all warm, and then it freezes down at the surface. But if the warm layer like this is in the mid levels, or low to mid levels, then what happens is the snowflakes not freeze, they melt partially or completely, and then when it goes cold again, like it does, because it goes back to being below freezing, and normally it goes to -10. Here's the -10 line, and here's -10 degrees Celsius, so it does go back. So it is good conditions for sleet. The second thing that went wrong was that I was highly biased to the GFS, the American model, during this entire event. I like the GFS, it's a good model, but it's probably not the most accurate out of the models we have. The NAM has a better resolution, the European model has a better resolution. What that means is they're able to calculate smaller areas, so better um, you get better forecasts from those models. And the third thing is that it looks like the storm's initial track before going out to sea was further north than we predicted. And so that allowed warm air advection to come in, and I think the warm air advection was stronger, and that's why it kind of broke through the cold air in the column and created this shallow warm layer. And then, of course, in general, it's difficult to predict the exact location of snowband development. But in the eastern areas, all of Connecticut, they verified. They got about 8 to 10 inches of snow. I didn't see much on the public information statement, much totals from eastern Suffolk County, but I would think they verified because western Suffolk got about 5 to 6 and even 7 inches of snow. So I would imagine because the eastern Suffolk was being clobbered by snow bands all night, so I would imagine that they verified. So here is the NAM, as you can see up here, and this is from the afternoon run, and look at this. It's saying that western Long Island and New York City and northeastern New Jersey and just portions of the lower Hudson Valley, a little bit, maybe more like the Bronx, are all going to get sleet. Purple is sleet. And, yeah, did not pay attention to that. Completely ignored it. No good. So, lessons learned. Consider all weather models, not just one. And I already explained about resolution. If a model has a finer resolution, for example, the European model has a 9 kilometer resolution. That means the grids are 9 by 9. And so every 9 kilometers, you can calculate initial conditions again. The GFS, I believe, has a 13-kilometer resolution, and the NAM has a 9-kilometer resolution. So the GFS is actually the coarsest of all of them. When looking at soundings, it's important to determine precipitation type. So look for shallow warm layers, as these can lead to snowflake microphysics, snowfall ratios, and precipitation type characteristics changing, mixing, doing a bunch of different things. A warm layer that is higher in the atmosphere, like again around 700 or 800 millibars, depending on its strength, it may lead to sleet. That would favor sleet because the the raindrops would refreeze into ice pellets, or you'd get wet snow or partially melted snow. And down at the ground, if there's a cold layer and it's warm all above, then that would favor freezing rain. Consider the strength and type of temperature advection. So again, I explained how the warm advection in this case was probably stronger than I thought it was, which heated up the cold layer and created that warm layer at 750. So you have to consider the strength of the advection, but more importantly, what will make or break the strength of the advection is the track of the storm. So you can ignore that. And I completely ignored the track of the storm because it was a very confusing forecast. Um, the models weren't always showing an alpha low pressure. It wasn't really clear if it was a double-barreled low or not. It was unclear where it was going, as it kept going back and forth because it was a double-barreled low. So, yeah, it was confusing, but the track of the storm, it makes a huge difference in your overall forecast. If the models aren't agreeing, don't immediately discount any one of them. Try to figure out which storm track you feel is best based on everything and roll with that. That is how you forecast. Okay, that is it for this storm. I'll see you at the next one.